Namaste. My name is Neelima. Welcome to Reflections Along the Way podcast, where you will be listening to reflections from learnings and experiences along my life's journey. As long as we live, we don't have any other choice but to be engaged in action, right? We have to act because of the life that is pulsating through us. It becomes activity in the outer world. So basically, life expresses itself as an action, as death does in inaction. But how we act or the actions vary from person to person. A farmer is working from dawn to dusk in the fields and he is sweating with exertion. A poet is just in the midst of nature and this great creation, and he is penning those words. And from the standpoint of a farmer, he doesn't seem to be working at all, right? And from the standpoint of a poet, the scientist is wasting public money. From the scientist's standpoint, an ordinary thinker is wasting his time. And from all these standpoints, they probably see Buddha, who's sitting under a tree in meditation, as an idler who is doing nothing and who is like a necessary leech to the society. In each case, every person thinks that the work they do is the most, useful work, or they are doing the most work. But only that person who is doing that action knows how vigorously he or she is working. A great painter one day was sitting near a pool and throwing stones into the water, and he was watching how the light is falling on the water and how the shades are appearing upon the ripples as he was throwing the stones. An ordinary man who was walking along the road, he was carrying the milk to a nearby town to sell, and he jealously looked at this painter, and he thought to himself, this person is doing nothing from morning to evening, eating food that is brought to him, and it's so unfair that I have to work so hard while he is just sitting there doing nothing and surviving. He thinks, what an injustice this is, right? That simple ordinary person did not know that the person he was complaining about, he was the great painter Michelangelo himself, who was observing those ripples to reproduce them on the canvas, right? So that he could capture that alluring beauty of the light and the shades on the ripples onto the canvas. Michelangelo was very vigorously studying, but the others who saw him thought that he was wasting away his time. It is this man who others thought was an idler, who produced so many paintings and sculptures we all know today. While that ordinary person, the milkman who was carrying the milk to sell in the neighboring town, he just died, leaving nothing for society. So every one of us must work. But what matters is how we work. What is the quality of activity that we are engaged in? With what attitude we are working? And with what intent we are working. So the great thinkers classified all people engaged in activity in three different categories. They are laborers, workers, and persons of achievement. So the difference between these people is not in the type of work they do, but it is in the way in which they do that work. Because of the difference in their temperaments and personality and outlooks mentally, their goals in life also differ. And because of these diverse goals, the activities that they perform also differs. So when Swamiji uses this word laborer, it's not meant to insult or bring disgrace to people who do physical labor, right? The word is used in a different context. In this context of this discussion, laborer means one who has no ideals in life. His only goal is to earn money for his own selfish needs. Basically, he uses the money he earns only for himself and his family. He might work very hard, but he works only for getting more money to make his life more comfortable. There is no goal beyond satisfying his own egocentric desires. By this definition of laborer, that person could be working in any work. He could be a political leader, he could be a scientist, a corporate executive, a writer, anyone who works for his or her profit alone is termed as a laborer. And that person could be working in conventional jobs which we think are good for society, like a political leader or something. But if he or she is working only with the attitude of wanting to earn money for themselves with no motive whatsoever greater than that they want to furnish their house beautifully or buy stuff for their children, and that person is not thinking about like starting a hospital or opening an orphanage or doing good to the society, then that person is a laborer. The second category of the people is workers, right? And a worker is someone who works less selfishly, and he or she is inspired by an ideal in life. The attitude with which a worker works is not limited only for like a profit in terms of money, but it comes out of an inspiration that comes because of a higher ideal. All inspired political, social, and religious leaders, they fall in this category. Every worker has a picture of a perfect society, like how they want to see the society, and their enthusiasm and their work comes from that vision. So, to bring that vision to actuality or reality is what inspires them to work. And they want nothing else from life but to see that vision become reality. They are ready to suffer and they're ready to sacrifice in order to achieve that goal and that ideal that they have placed for themselves. And when we contrast this to laborer, the ego of the worker has been reduced to some degree. The third variety is not so common. There are many laborers in the world and workers is fewer when compared to laborers, but the third variety, which is persons of achievement, they're very few indeed. So it is these people that uplift and inspire an entire generation to a higher level of morality or greater virtue in living, who show that humans are capable of living with such high standards, right? And such mighty people are called saints or seers or prophets, and they are these incarnations of great virtues and values. And they live an ideal life, inspiring others even after their death. The fragrance that they have left behind, they gather a new momentum as the years pass by. For example, Christ died 2000 years ago, and yet we find that his glory becomes more and more compelling as time passes, right? And in such a person, the ego is totally eliminated. There's no trace of ego, and that person works only for the good of others. we might get a question then, like, what do you want from the world? Why are you working? Like, why has Buddha worked, or Christ worked, or Muhammad preached, going from place to place? Why are all these saints and sages trying to spend their time preaching if they don't have any desire of their own, right? The thing is, they do not do this for profit, or for success or fame or anything like that. They just do this from a feeling that they're doing the right thing, and irrespective of whether someone appreciates or recognizes this effort, right? They really do not care whether others recognize them or not. Neither praise nor blame really touches them in that case. They just share from a sense of compassion. The results of that does not affect them, basically. And because they have such idealistic lifestyle, more often than not, these people are persecuted by society. Even though they face so many obstacles, they follow these ideals, and they live on inspiring others, and they raise the standard of living, and they change the society and inspire everyone to live up to their higher ideals, right? So all activities can be categorized into two types. The first one is all the activities that are motivated by desire, and the second is all the activities that are not motivated by desire. In the first category, the desires motivating a person can be either totally selfish, like in the case of a laborer, or it can be for a higher cause, such as the welfare of the community or a nation, or some higher ideal, like in the case of a worker. But both of them are motivated by desire. And in the second category, which are the activities that are not motivated by desire, that is how persons of achievement work. He or she does not work in order to gain a certain result. A person of achievement is tuned to the supreme reality, and they're always in a state of fulfillment. They don't need to do anything else to fulfill a desire or anything. The actions that they perform is not going to get them any extra satisfaction than they already have, right? And this sort of action, which is done without any selfish desires, which is also called nishkāma karma in Sanskrit, that kind of actions are the noblest of all. We all tend to be number one for ourselves, right? But the problem is that we don't have an ideal to strive for. And because of that lack of this higher ideal, we don't have that enthusiasm or passion or inspiration for the work, right? That is the reason we get so exhausted. So what we need to do is to develop an ideal for ourselves, a purpose or an ideal which is greater than just satisfying our senses, which is greater than just satisfying our own selfish needs. Once we set that kind of an ideal for ourselves, then the activities that we do are more joyful. We develop that enthusiasm for life. Tiredness that comes when we are working is no longer there. The less and less we work selfishly, the more we discover the fulfillment in that act of work itself. And our journey or our goal should be to raise our attitude or our mindset from the attitude of a laborer to the dignity of a worker. And then we need to keep putting effort until we reach the state of a person of achievement. Thank you for listening to today's reflections. If you'd like to connect with me, please visit bluishmuse.com. Until next time, namaste.